Mr. Kurt Kondrich, and then on deck will be Mr. Frostman and Mr. Volker. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon. I want to thank the chairman. I want to thank you all this afternoon for allowing me to be here and speak. I was called over the weekend. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and was asked to come here. And my wife said, "You're nuts. You don't have time to do this." And I said, "This issue is that important that I do need to go." So a little background. My name is Kurt Kondrich. I'm a retired police officer. I'm an advocate. I'm a disability advocate. Somebody was talking about that earlier. I've chaired the Governor's Advisory Council for Early Intervention under the last 3 governors in Pennsylvania. I've been on the disability rights boards there, mental health boards, and I advocate very much for programs that people invest in to give children a good life. In May of 2003, my beautiful daughter Chloe was born. Shortly after her birth, she was diagnosed with Down syndrome. During my wife's pregnancy, we were advised that we were high risk to have a child with Down syndrome due to my wife's age, which was 40 at the time. We were offered prenatal Down syndrome tests, which we refused, and we loved and cherished our little Chloe from the moment of conception. When Chloe was born, I was serving as a Pittsburgh police officer. My mission always was to defend and protect, especially the most vulnerable among us. I served 20 years as a police officer, and while we were having our appointments, I asked medical professionals what we could do after the test. I was told we could make a decision on whether or not we want to keep our daughter if she had a Down syndrome diagnosis. As a police officer, this deeply disturbed me. If someone walked into this medical facility, was threatening somebody or putting somebody at risk, I would jump in front of them and defend and protect them. But I had medical professionals telling me, we knew we were having a daughter, we already named her, that if I didn't like Chloe's genetic makeup, or I didn't like how she looked, or if she didn't meet the cultural mandate for perfection, it was perfectly okay for me to get rid of her right here and terminate her. After Chloe was born, I began speaking to families who had had the prenatal Down syndrome test, and I was shocked to learn that every family I communicated with was advised to terminate the pregnancy once the Down syndrome diagnosis was given. Many people were told their child would be a burden on their family and unable to function in society. This deeply disturbed me as I watched my daughter Chloe grow and become an amazing young lady with many abilities, not a disability. As a police officer, I always sought the facts and the truth. I decided to leave my law enforcement career to advocate for children like my daughter, to make sure society was aware of the truth about these amazing individuals. Chloe and I began making regular trips to our Pennsylvania capital. You guys actually have a nicer capital, I have to say. To show policymakers how people with Down syndrome can be fully included in schools, communities, and other places as long as they have the right services. We encourage bipartisan legislators to invest in these supports so people with Down syndrome can have a great life. I shared videos of my daughter reading at age 3 and told of all the other incredible outreach she was doing. She actually reads better than most of the police officers I used to work with, which doesn't say much. Chloe plays baseball, volleyball, attends her neighborhood high school. She's in 11th grade. She reads at grade level right now. She goes to dances. She enjoys church. She's manager on 2 basketball teams. She has tons of friends, more friends than I can keep track of. She likes to go out to eat, loves pizza, chicken nuggets. She adores her brother Nolan, and she's received several statewide and national awards for her advocacy. Chloe has been invited to the United Nations, New York City twice, and her and I spoke up for the past 2 years due to the extremely high termination rates in Iceland and other countries in Europe for individuals diagnosed with Down syndrome. And as you heard earlier, the head of medicine in Iceland proudly proclaimed 2 years ago that they had cured Down syndrome. They cured it by killing everybody. That's like saying that I have cured red hair, or I've cured autism, or I've cured cerebral palsy by eliminating these people. So we spoke to the United Nations. Chloe's met with the president, the vice president. She's been on the floor of the United States Congress and the floor of the House. And her picture has been featured on the big screen in Times Square, New York City 4 times. In addition, Chloe and I advocated for a law in Pennsylvania that would make factual supportive information available to people who got a Down syndrome diagnosis. This was named Chloe's Law. And we spoke to every representative, Republican and Democrat in Pennsylvania. The law passed 50-0 in the Senate, 196-2 in the House because of the advocacy efforts. In our great nation, it is illegal with severe penalties and fines to harm or destroy an eagle or turtle egg because they're endangered species that could easily become extinct if they're not defended and protected. So today I'm going to ask you, what is an eagle egg and what's a turtle egg? It's an unborn species. It hasn't been born yet. Prenatal individuals with Down syndrome represent an unborn species of people who are being systematically eliminated from the earth and are currently endangered in many countries. In Iceland, they're currently been extinct the last 7 years. Don't these people deserve the same protections as endangered animals? In 1973, with the Endangered Species Act, we criminalized killing and destroying our most vulnerable animals. I love animals. Trust me, I have several dogs and love them. I think that was a good act. But also in 1973, we legalized killing our most vulnerable and defenseless children. So we need to take a hard look at that. Are animals worth more than people? Because those two pieces of legislation, as I stated, an egg, which is an unborn animal, if you go down to the beach this summer and you destroy a turtle egg, I can guarantee you the police will be coming for you. You'll be going to jail. You'll be facing very stiff penalties. So isn't it time to defend all of our most endangered and vulnerable species? In 2015, our current governor of Pennsylvania announced a moratorium on all executions in the state of Pennsylvania because of concerns about the death penalty system. I will tell you, I agree with that 100%, because we have to be 100% sure that a person is guilty of a crime prior to punishment being administered. Innocent children diagnosed prenatal with Down syndrome are receiving a prenatal death sentence when they are identified, targeted, and terminated for not meeting the misguided cultural mandate for unattainable perfection. Isn't this an absolute miscarriage of justice and the ultimate form of hate crime? For people like myself, and I'm sure everybody in this room who believe in tolerance, inclusion, diversity, and acceptance, this prenatal genocide against Down syndrome represents the most extreme form of prejudice, profiling, bias, intolerance, bigotry, exclusion, and hate. In my 20-year law enforcement career, I never recall seeing or reading about a person with Down syndrome committing an act of violence, an act of malice, an act of hatred, an act of evil. I wanted to bring my...
I really appreciate your testimony, but you're kind of at your time, so go ahead and...
30 seconds, I'll be done.
Perfect.
Chloe doesn't care what your political party is, Republican, Democrat, where you live, how much money you make, what you drive, what color your hair is. She will love you because she has unconditional love, genuine kindness, acceptance, and pure joy, which is exactly what our country needs right now. So I'm here today to ask you to support the discrimination bill being here in Wisconsin to make history. And I want you also to ask today, who's next as science rapidly advances? Is it the LGBT community, autism community? How about a genetic test for depression, baldness, ADHD, OCD, red hair, shortness, anxiety, and the list goes on and on. So I'm going to thank you for allowing me to be here today and for flying back up and flying back to Pennsylvania this evening, and wish you all of God's blessings here in your beautiful state of Wisconsin. It's a pleasure to be here to visit.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Representative Wickers.
Thank you very much. And you traveled a long way, and there's certainly a benefit, whether here or in another life. So I want to thank you for your commitment, your sacrifice, because it pays dividends, and there is a ripple effect. So keep doing what you're doing. And where you come from, there's certainly an example of the trend that's going, and you just alluded at the very end, of what's happening in the United States. From the contrast from where you're from, can you give some light to us? Where is legislation going there? And how are the battles and the fights and the battlegrounds there compared to what you're seeing and observing here?
Sure, I'll keep it short. As I said, in 2014, the Pennsylvania legislature enacted Chloe's Law, which mandates that positive information, supportive information, early intervention, especially what would be given to parents once this diagnosis is made. Currently in Pennsylvania, we have legislation that's very similar to what's happening here. As a matter of fact, I'm flying home tonight. I'll get home at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I will get my car tomorrow morning at 7 and drive to the Pennsylvania Capitol, where I'm speaking tomorrow on behalf of that legislation, which is very similar to this. We term it in Pennsylvania as a disability rights law, because it is disability rights. You know, I believe in all the services for people with disabilities, but you can't provide the services if you don't have the people to provide them to. So,
Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you for your service in law enforcement. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you all.